All right, well, good afternoon, everybody. We'll kick off now, because otherwise everybody's got places to go. I'm Rob Rakowitz. I'm with the WFA. I head up the Global Alliance for Responsible Media, also known as GARM, and I'm joined here today by Anthony.
I'm Anthony Falco, and I'm the Global Director for AdNet Zero, which is an international, global, fast becoming a global initiative based around 5-point action plan to help the industry decarbonise and support behaviour change, positive behaviour change within the industry.
Excellent. So I'd like to thank our hosts before we start off. So RTL, I'd like to thank you guys for hosting this important conversation and the launch of our work. It's been a long journey to get here. So Anthony, why don't you kind of kick off?
So yeah, for those who don't know, we started this journey about 16 months ago. And today we're here to tell you about the first phase of our work, the release of Global Media Sustainability Framework. It is the first phase. There's lots more to come, and expect that over the coming months and years, which will continue to be an industry collaboration, which we will talk to you about a little bit more. We're thrilled to be here, and we hope that this work will act as a leaping off point for more accurate measurement associated to media. And we're excited to see how the industry accepts what we're doing, or is curious and wants to test and learn from the work that we're putting out into the industry as of last night. So we know that up until now, most of the sort of carbon emissions sort of reductions have been tactical, and we released an action guide last year at Cannes, which gave 10 tactics for advertisers, or people within the advertising supply chain actually, to look at some of the things they were already doing and how they could be more sustainable. But we know that systematic change has to be strategic.
And when we looked at it, there were 5 ingredients that started to come out in terms of what would require transformation and what would enable it. So consistency, I think everybody wants to see measurement and calculations done consistently. Compatibility, right? Because we're going to need to be collecting data from multiple parts of the value chain. Transparency, so understanding where the measurement is coming from, how calculations vary. Accuracy, because we want to be accurate. And then we want rigor, right? We don't want this to be by media people, for media people. We actually need to have client science baked into it. So we're proud because we've been working for since October, when we really kicked off, with about 100 companies. We're thankful to the Client Science Expert Group, who Bill Westcott is in the audience, is chairing, and has been helping us be able to bring science into the conversation. But more importantly, also the steer team. So the steer team has made sure that the recommendations that we are making are right for the media industry. So leaders from Reckitt, L'Oreal, P&G, Unilever, Diageo, Sanofi, Mars, MasterCard, UTM, ISBA, ANA, and Forays have made all of this work possible. These voluntary frameworks, they're voluntary. They're here for you guys to consider. And we released it, it went live early this morning. And they're designed to help you measure, collect, report on greenhouse gas emissions and data relative to media. Sorry, just flipping. So we're proud to welcome a roundtable of basically trailblazers in the industry. So we've got Ash from the Forays, so Ashwini Kramdekar. We've got Christy Cooper from Meta. We have Marion Setier from LVMH, and we have Sophie Rusin from Union de Marque. So thank you guys for spending the time with us today to talk about all of the work that we've done. So we're really, really excited to do this. And we're going to run this as a little bit of a sort of roundtable, because Anthony, I even have questions for you. So listen, the first question, we're going to start out with you. So we started out this journey, you talked about these 2 tracks. You know, what is different about this track? What makes it unique?
Well, I think start point is the WFA are an AdNet Zero global supporter, so the communication between us was already good. They were involved in a lot of our larger global discussions. And I think we saw an opportunity between us through those discussions that actually we should combine the work that we were doing separately. And I think there are several reasons why we did that. I think largely it was around having to bring the industry together to collaborate. And the WFA obviously have the largest global advertisers within their membership, and AdNet Zero represent a large part of the rest of the supply chain, with some advertisers as well. And so joining them together seemed like a bit of an unstoppable force, but also a necessity actually for success. I think we also saw that transparency and compatibility was going to be really, really difficult to address unless we brought that industry together. And I think we've seen over the last 16, 17 months, the industry come together and work really, truly pre-competitively to solve this one issue together. I think the other thing is that AdNet Zero at its very heart is around doing things together and going faster, going further. And I think obviously this fits perfectly with that ethos and that ambition for the initiative to be able to achieve that as an industry as one. And I think the other thing, GARM. GARM is a trusted part of the industry. Their successful work on brand safety has earned that trust, and they've established a governance structure that gives us the rigor, or gave us the rigor, to be able to do this successfully. And I couldn't finish without praising this man. You know, his leadership, his technical expertise has been the reason why we've got to this point. I mean, he's so successfully led the industry to this point.
Too kind. But honestly, we wouldn't have been able to do it.
It's a good partnership.
Separately, yeah, exactly. So, you know, we talk about this in terms of like copy and creative, so it's really, really good partnership. But Christy, when we were doing this work, we heard a lot of tension and pain points from media owners and sellers and, you know, folks throughout the value chain. So wanted to sort of understand a bit of the pain points there. And it's taken a lot of work, you know, pro-competitively and collaboratively to get to this point. When you think about this, why do you think we've been able to do this? Why do you think that we've been able to do this together and so quickly?
Thank you. Great question. So I think fundamentally we know that industry collaboration is critical as the issues facing all of us become more complex, and we all want to create an ecosystem that's responsible, but also have the opportunity to make major improvements of some of the biggest societal issues that are coming at us. And so that's fundamentally pre-competitive, and everyone feels the same way. For a platform the size of Meta, it's a huge opportunity and a responsibility to be part of that progress. And then I think, similar to what Anthony said, we had a really good playbook with GARM and the uncommon collaboration that you created around brand safety, and the way that allowed us to really look at the brand safety floor, look at the suitability framework, and give our teams a North Star on how do we meet the industry where we need to be to make progress and really demonstrate our commitment. And so I think it boiled down to the desire for collaboration, absolutely the need for consistent measurement, and then everyone having sort of joint commitments on net zero. So perfect combination.
Thank you, Christy. Marion, if I could ask you a question next.
With pleasure.
The framework will obviously impact us all differently depending on where we sit within the industry. How do you think, what does it mean to advertisers, and actually, as importantly, what does it mean to your partners?
So first of all, I would like to say I'm so happy to be here for this such incredible milestone that you succeed to achieve. Honestly, it's a groundbreaking, let's say. It means a lot to us because we went through a long journey of more than 1.5 years measuring, testing different tools. And if you don't have the same methodology, you land with exactly the same data on different results. So to us, an important milestone was also the landing in the French market with the one frame, because it supported, and our vision is from this global single framework to build a tool, because as you know, we have many brands, many active brands, more than 40 around the world, many markets. So our vision is to build a tool from this global aligned framework and be fed with the data of the media partner, and then so that each maison can have their access to their own results and pilot their own sustainable strategy, and us as a group, we are accountable for the consolidation, accountable for the group results. So that's why it's so important to have this global framework. Thank you.
And I think this comes off of an event you had last week, doesn't it? Where you
Exactly.
made that quite public. To
Yes,
supply.
exactly. So as I said, we started by the French market. So last week, we announced our progress to all the media vendors in the French market, telling them where we are and telling them that to move on, we would need their data because, and what is so important, you mentioned collaboration, Christy, is it's a collaborative work very much because we are all going to progress, and the progress done by the media will then be integrated in the progress of our tool, and we will valorize all the progress done by the media vendors. So it's very much a win-win subject. And last week I was at the TEDx conference, and there was a climate expert who said, to win the climate change, we need to find win-win solutions. So it's not my way, it's not your way, it's our way, the highest.
Yeah, okay, good advice. Ashwini, how do you think it's going to affect advertising agencies, sorry?
Both. Everything she said. I could not have said it better. I think, so the forays has a long history of working with GARM, the brand safety floor that Christy mentioned. We have not only been using it, but feeding into it. Similar to LVMH, agencies were also getting asked to submit different types of data sets, which was just confusing for the agencies, for the advertisers, for our partners, for everyone. And so to have this global voluntary framework, which we really hope everyone will participate in, is just going to make it easier for all of us to record our stuff together. And, you know, Rob can attest to this. It took us, about 2 years to get the brand safety suitability work, to get everyone aligned to it. We are hoping that this will be a little faster, but I think we are all going to align to a framework for sure.
And I think it's a good point there about this first iteration. You know, it's through that collaboration, that learning, that testing of tools, the availability of more data, the advancements will still come, and the completeness of the formulas will sort of grow. So I think that's a good point, sort of from your experience with GARM to date.
Yeah, I mean the data, the formula, eventually it is subjective by market, by advertiser, by tech, but the framework is the same. And so as a user, we'll still be able to get the same kind of output. The specifics will obviously be different.
Thank you.
Excellent. Christy, I'm going to come back to you.
Great.
So, lots of agencies,
Yes.
lots of marketers, lots of requests.
Yes.
So tell us, a common framework, what does this unlock for you guys within the organization?
It's tremendous. I mean, Marion and I have had several one-on-ones of data requests for their tool, and I think fundamentally we've got net zero goals. We're headed to net zero by 2030. Our partners have goals. They're very interdependent on each other, so we're fundamentally aligned that measurement of ads emissions really matters. At last count, I think there was something like 50 different calculators with massive data fragmentation. And so as you can imagine, for a company like ours to go to our product team and say, can you build 50 different versions of this? I wouldn't even start that conversation. I would be laughed out of the room. And so I think for there to now be a North Star and a single framework that the industry is aligned behind gives us what we need to go and advocate internally to prioritize a single work stream, to work with the industry to understand what that solution needs to look like. So it's huge, and it kicks off a whole new level of work for us to actually start to think about what does the solution look like. Is it first party? Is it third party? Is it both? Very similar to GARM. And so now we get to start this new phase of work internally because we've got that North Star. So it's why we've been huge supporters from the beginning and believe so much in this kind of collaboration. So thank you.
Well, we really appreciate you guys too, because and what's really interesting, and I think it's important for the audience here to get this, which is there is such massive amount of work that goes on at a media platforms you know, whether it's Meta or some of their peers in terms of product engineering. And being able to sort of, you guys like work on this thing from a product marketing perspective, and there's like a brief, and then there's years and years of work, lots of money spent. And fundamentally, this is really exciting. This is a great opportunity. We're really flattered that you guys have input into the work and are now going to consider where it's appropriate and how to onboard it. So we want to thank you guys too, because it's just, you know, getting to this is like a really like nice inflection point, and we're really excited.
Our pleasure.
And I think the other thing I'd add, picking up on your point as well, which is around the data collection, the consistency of data collection, which obviously you referred to there. You know, up until now, there has been multiple requests for data in multiple different ways, consistently from many different sources. So we're hoping that by standardizing that, Christy can work with your team internally to create a consistent way of getting that consistent data to feed the frameworks, which hopefully will give us more accurate calculations over time. So it's all interdependent, but I think that is, you know, that consistency is so key. Sophie, been waiting patiently.
Yes.
Thank you. Sophie, there's been loads of work being done in the French industry. We've spoken a lot through this process. UDM have been part of that steer team. And a lot of the trade associations in France have been incredibly generous and open with the work that they have been doing, and have formed some of the foundations of our work that we've built upon, which we're very grateful for. So tell us a little bit more about what you've been doing in that space and your journey, because obviously it wasn't necessarily an easy one, but it's now a well-established one.
Thank you for the invitation and the question. Yes, it has been a journey. It's a journey began 3 years ago for some of us, and with the One Frame initiative. The One Frame initiative is a framework, a common framework for the reduction of ad carbon campaigns in France. It's about all the life cycle of the communications, so it's from production to distribution. And it's really a story of collaboration and cooperation too, because we have a cooperation from all the ecosystem of communication in France, and it works. And it has been launched 1 year ago, and of course it cannot be an island, and it had to come global. And I was very happy to learn that you were working on this, and so happy to share with you and to work with you and to be one of the major bases of this global framework, because we need, everybody already said it, but we need to be very cooperative and open-minded to share with everybody. And about our journey, why did we decide to go this way? Of course, in France, like everybody, we care about climate change. We have today, it's autumn in Paris and summer here. We see a lot of events, but like everyone and like all countries. But in France, we have a little bit of context. We had some regulations coming from our policies for like climat and resilience. It's a law, and this law asks our industry to take commitments to climate. So we have to take those commitments, but everybody was working like little islands, and there was not really cooperation. And some of our members, like L'Oréal, Orange, and some others, they were creating their own calculators, and they just find it stupid not to be able to work together. So they ask us to find a solution. So we work with climate scientists. You say science is a key. We have to be very keen on that. It's not just to have good figures and low carbon footprint. It's to be fair with science, to be clear. And we work with all the trade bodies to have this common tool called One Frame. And last October we shared, and today we are, and my baby is going global, and it's amazing.
No, and I would like to go back to that, because that October visit where I was able to sit with you over lunch with Jean-Luc and Didier, and just seeing all of the sort of path that you guys had sort of set out for the industry locally in France, you know, this idea of like looking at best practices, building transparency. You guys have not only sort of committed to the work locally, but also contributed to it at a global level, and then also brought some of your science expertise in Mael, BL Evolution. So we're indebted to you guys at a global level for leading the way, and really sort of leading with an esprit de corps, you know, so thank you. We wouldn't be able to do this without you.
Thank you.
And it's also why UDM won the WFA President's Award this year. So congratulations.
Thank you. It was my first prize.
And I think it does offer us a bit of a glimpse into a hopefully a pretty positive future as well, because, you know, Marianne, what you were saying about using one frame, you know, it is being adopted. You were saying about the fragmentation and the request from the advertisers to create this consistency, which we were obviously seeing at a global level as well. And so, again, you are the forerunner internationally, and so we can hopefully see, you know, the successes that are ahead of us as an industry as a result of the work that's come out of France. So again, thank you. Rob, coming to you now. Up until now, there has been no consistent agreed industry framework. What is the first step in this longer journey? We know it's a first step, but why is this a significant milestone in your mind?
It's a significant milestone because I think the biggest thing that we've heard in all of our journey in GARM is sort of just the major transition, and I've talked about this a lot, which is, you know, the from to that we'll be known for, which is going from a Tower of Babel situation where there's complete fragmentation, nobody speaks a common language, to a Rosetta Stone. Not to say that there's going to be one single language, but there is going to be a way to actually drive translation. A lot of people here speak multiple languages, so hopefully this is touching your heartstrings. And I think that's really important, because having that sort of common narrative and being able to sort of, you know, for somebody like Marion, and sort of saying, okay, well, can the US and France and Italy and a single maison be able to sort of have a common conversation and look at data? Can Meta talk with different agencies and different marketers with a common set of framework? Can Ash lead a community of thought leaders in the agency space? It just unlocks a lot. And I think that's really sort of just what it is that at the end of the day, it's a common voluntary framework. People will be able to review it. People will be able to adopt it and onboard it in a way that's appropriate for their own businesses. And it can be, hey, listen, I'm going to go to town on this thing and sort of, you know, bring it into media planning and buying. I'm simply going to use it for just understanding where I'm at, and I'm going to do sort of post-campaign reporting, and I'll just report up to my sustainability officer. It is the sort of the limits, it's limitless, and that's the really exciting thing about it. And I'm really excited to see what everybody does with it. But it is that sort of common framework, and it is that common language that is going to be really critical.
And feedback on that is really important, isn't it, in terms of how it's used and utilised, and the gaps, you know, where we can improve the work that we've been doing over time.
The funny thing about languages is you speak them and you hear them, and there's always implied listening, and we've got to be prepped for that.
I'm going to butt into this love fest. And I just want to repeat what Rob said. It's voluntary, it's common, it's going to help all the ecosystem partners. And so well done to you all, and thank you for getting us started on this. Because agencies, from an agency perspective, we were asked to submit so many different inputs, and none of us knew what was going to happen with it. So that's excellent.
A good first step, hopefully. A good first step. So we thought we'd close. I think we've got about 5 minutes, so we were just going to tell you a little bit more about what's to come, and maybe how you could utilise it depending on where you sit within the advertising ecosystem. Obviously, as we've said, voluntary, based on the climate science, latest climate science, very, very important. We've all said that, and that's incredibly important as we go forward. But as we launch, what we have today is that first iteration with more to come. And we're looking forward to how the industry will use those frameworks and tell us, how successful they are, and challenge us to make them better still. We will keep that industry collaboration going. We will keep those working groups going, and we will get feedback from the people who are actually implementing those tools, as well as the wider industry. And we'll listen, well, we hope, to those comments over time and integrate what we can and what feels appropriate. But where should you get started? Well, it depends who you are, of course, and the sort of company that you work for. But if you're an advertiser, well, you could ask how GHG emissions are being measured for media campaigns by your partners, and what methodology they're using. Again, we talked about driving transparency. We want people to ask the question, and we'll be part of our work will be creating voluntary disclosure forms to enable that too. You want to understand more about the data sources that are being used for those calculations, as well as the methodology of the formulas that may be underpinning that. And you want to consider where this sits in the marketing and media group priorities. Again, that will be different depending on your company that you work for. For advertisers, considering how GHG emissions and metrics impact day-to-day planning for each of your clients. We want this to be part of the conversation with every client on every project. And so this, again, hopefully this framework enables that consistency and maybe trust that can enable that to happen at scale. And you should consider how this may feed into partnership ecosystems, conversations regarding methods, data and reductions. And then finally, if you're a media seller, very important part of this ecosystem, and obviously will have, we think, a very positive impact on their businesses and their ability to calculate emissions. Work with media buyers in the supply chain, request for non-confidential, very important non-confidential data, and give it to the buying side in as much granularity as you can, and seek to improve that data over time. And then look at these voluntary standards yourself, and look at how you can use them to find out where your emissions are coming from, to work out your longer term strategies around reduction.
And sort of what's going to happen next in terms of beyond sort of individual companies. So at the global level, we are going to continue to develop key assets. So think about new formula, think about our approach to data gaps, thinking about also data sources. So we are going to be able to provide guidance for each of the marketers, each of the markets, and be able to drive that. And we're going to be doing that in partnership with some of the national associations in the key markets. The other thing that we're going to be doing, we talked about this a little bit before, is monitoring impact. We're going to be seeing what tools are taken up, which ones are actually having a little bit of speed bumps, and we're going to listen, and we're going to take on that feedback, and we're going to take it into future developments on the framework.
Absolutely, and then I think from an Net Zero point of view as well, as our initiative grows internationally, we've launched our Europe hub. There's 8 European markets who have signed up to Net Zero, and we think that will grow over the coming months. We will be launching Net Zero in Australia. So our footprint is growing, and we think this is a great opportunity for our local chapters to take this in under Action 3, which is about reducing the emissions from media, and talk to local media sellers, understand the availability of data, how that may differ locally, and how the availability, may differ, and the approaches to collection may differ as well. So again, we need to listen, but Net Zero creates a fantastic network to be able to listen and learn internationally.
And just before I make my last final point, just by a show of hands here, who has been involved in GARM and the Net Zero media sustainability work?
Awesome.
All right, round of applause for all of you guys, seriously. The framework that we released would not be possible without all of you. All of you inputting into the work, contributing to identifying best practices, feeding back on frameworks, and making sure that we actually have something that's viable. So we want to thank you guys. The release of this, it's significant. It's going to be a significant mile marker. It's a real position of honor to be introducing it. However, look, I think we're enthusiastic about the work. We're enthusiastic about what it sort of unlocks. But we've done all of the hard training, and we're ready to roll. and we're ready to roll, and we're ready to roll together with you guys. So we're really